With the introduction of the balance changes in patch 2.1 and a new champion Aphelios, we've seen some new decks come up in the meta, either because new cards were introduced to the game, or because some existing cards have been able to come through due to other decks being nerfed, or new cards being buffed. I decided to make this video not in patch 2.1, as loads of new cards and decks were kind of coming and going really quickly. I wanted to make sure the 3 decks that I chose for this video were actually competitive, and just not new fads. And this video is also a new milestone, as it's the first video with the new card design, where the region now appears in the top right. With that said, let's dive in. This is Best New Decks Patch 2.2. This video has been done in collaboration with BomberTV. Please remember to like and subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications too. So let's dive in. This is Aggro 1-turn kill Riven Zed and features cards from Noxus Iona. It contains mostly Noxus cards but also features Zed, Nopify, Deny and the latest owner card, Flurry of Fists. As a very low average mana cost with 32 cards costing 3 or less mana. As an above average cost to build with 5 epic cards. This is one of the rarest archetypes, Aggro Combo, and it's very hard to pilot it. It's very skill intensive and requires a lot of knowledge of the metagame, but if you can manage it, it's nearly unstoppable. This kind of archetype has the properties of aggro, being able to compete with other aggro strategies and win fast against control, and also has the properties of a combo deck, being able to punish slower playstyles of the control decks even more. The idea here is to have a very big unit full of buffs and then give it quick attack and put the cherry on top with the new card, Flurry of Fists, granting it double attack for an insane amount of damage. First of all, you need buffs, and we have plenty of them in the form of Blade Fragments and the Blade of Exile itself, and others such as Might, a very important one to make Zed able to go through, and Nexus Strike to level up even if he gets blocked. It also has some pretty big attack buff as well, which synergizes quite nicely with this deck. Of course, these buffs are useless without units to cast them on, and there's 3 main targets in this deck that you can cast them on. Zed is probably the best one, being able to clone itself with the Living Shadows, with all the keywords makes it the best target for the Blade of Exile, as well as Flurry of Fists, to create 2 8/3s with double attack and overwhelm, for potential 32 damage. Take this even further with buffs from Might or Cater of the Arm, your opponent will not know what hit them. Shirazza the Blade is your next best target, and you may start to connect the dots here. Any unit can get double the output of potential damage is what we're looking for, and Shirira is a bit weaker than Zed if she gets blocked, as obviously she deals less damage, and then Zed and there's Living Shadows, but if she's unblocked she can deal an insane amount of damage, so if you play at the right time here, it's going to be pretty lethal. Your third best target is Riven. She only doubles the buff on attack and only one time, but as often this is big enough to deal 20 or more damage, and given you're probably already going to have your opponent's Nexus health reduced to a low amount at this stage in the game, it's probably more than enough. So overall this deck is incredibly fun, surprising and actually a little bit competitive as well. It's currently competitive due to the buffs of the Riven package and a nerf to Hush. So we see that the fangs of Riven have been sharpened while the one of its kind of predators have been dull. I like that animal analogy there. This is Twisted Fate Fizz Elusive and features cards primarily from Piltover and Zorn, even though the 2 main champions are from Buildwater. It's actually quite an expensive deck with 7 epic cards in total on top of the 6 champions. It's very spell heavy with 25 in total and only 9 follower cards. The deck has a very strong ramp to mid-game with lots of cards costing 0 to 4 mana. The 2 main ideas with this deck is level up Twisted Fate and kill with elusives. It's as simple as that. When Twisted Fate is leveled up each round, the first 3 cards you play, anytime a hits a card, it activates a Destiny card, which I'll go into shortly about what these can do. To accomplish the first goal of leveling up Twisted Fate, you have plenty of drawing tools such as Rummage and Pick a Card. Rummage discards 2 to draw 2, and Pick a Card places a card from your hand into your deck to draw 3 cards in the next round, which are all going to have fleeting. All this drawing will level up Twisted Fate quick. After Twisted Fate levels up, the amount of value he generates is absolutely insane, even if he survives just a single round. The red card from Twisted Fate will crush aggro strategies with the wide damage it does to all your opponent's units, which are typically going to have little health if they're aggressive. Yellow card can set back the tempo of your opponent on the turn they go in for their finishes. Imagine how triggering it's going to be when you deal 2 damage and stun their boss card just as they're about to win. Blue card can generate more value and it's useful in a control matchup. Now imagine casting all 3 of them in the same round, all 3 of Twisted Fate's cards, which can easily be done with the amount of low cost burst spells that this deck runs. To finish and kill, we do this with elusives and we mainly have Fizz and the hidden gem Wiggly Burblefish. If you start off with a Fizz then draw on turn 2 into Suit Up, this can be devastating. Suit Up costs 2 less when drawn and sets a card's stats to 4/4. Also activate Fizz's effect so he's untargetable and elusive. The 4/4 stat line is basically unremovable in the early games and can only be answered with the single target removals like Vengeance or multiple removals, giving you advantage on the value and baiting out removals for safer Twisted Fate later on so he can obviously be generating the value of his cards. Wiggly Burblefish is also the best target for Imperative Improvement to push for more elusive damage while also protecting the generated copies from pings. This spell simply creates a copy of Wiggly Burblefish with additional 1/1 stats. This deck suffers a lot from AoEs and removals in general, but against a deck with none of these, it's basically unstoppable. Twisted Fate Fizz was one of the first decks to go top 1 in Masters last patch, and it's slowly growing in popularity, and the meta's basically evolved to answer this new threat with Anivia Reborn, for example. This deck is still in the top of the most competitive decks at the moment. This is Twisted Fate Aphelios, and it's a deck that first appeared in patch 2.1. Features cards from Targon and Bilgewater and has a good mix of followers and spells. It's actually a very low costing deck with a very low average mana cost, with all but 6 cards costing 4 or less mana. It's a fairly expensive deck actually, with 7 epic cards in total. This deck doesn't really actually have an overall synergy or theme in which all the cards fit in. Instead, the common factor here is value. We're talking about tons and tons of value throughout the deck. Aphelios creates infinite amounts of value in theory, providing you with all the tools you need, be it removal, a stabilization tool, a finisher, a way to develop, or an advantage in combat via any of his moon weapons. It simply goes on and on. Twisted Fate incentivizes you to draw a card, therefore generating value. If he levels up, the game is basically over. His blue card allows you to draw a card and refills 1 spell mana. When he levels up, he can play up to 3 Destiny cards a turn, which is also absolutely insane value. The rest of the cards in their deck are basically there to answer the common threats that you see in the meta and or to synergize with the champions. For example, Octopus can be summoned by the new moon weapon Crescendum, which summons a 2 mana cost follower from your deck. As this is the only 2 cost mana follower in the deck, it will always be summoned. Pick a card can be activated to level up Twisted Fate more consistently. With Pick a Card, you place a card from your hand into the deck, then draw 3 fleeting cards the next turn. Twisted Fate levels up when you draw 8 cards, so this can be achieved super quick. Overall, this deck feels great to play and fits in with players who like to always have the answers to any problem their opponent faces with them. With the introduction of Aphelios, many players have tried to build successful decks with him, and I guess this deck is the best version of those experimentations that all the players have been trying in a meta. Bomber has a more in-depth guide about this deck on his channel, and you can find that in the card above or the pinned comment below. And there we go guys, what do you think to these 3 new decks? On my top 10 decks video, all of you were asking where Twisted Fate was. On my best meta decks video, all of you were asking where Twisted Fate Aphelios was, which appeared in a patch slightly later on. And many of you, I know, love the BomberTV special, Aggro OTK Riven Zed. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to wait a little bit longer to make this best new decks video, to truly see what the best 3 new decks were with the last major balance changes. The data presented here is analysed by BomberTV using MOBA analytics. He's a Masters tier player with a background in game theory and game design. He took the most winning archetypes into Master tier, excluding ones with small play rates, analysed their key properties on why they are so strong, Link to his channel is in a pinned comment and in the card above. What do you guys think the best deck is in patch 2.2? I would love to hear in the comments. Next time is top 10 decks patch 2.2. Even though there were no balance changes this patch, the meta continues to evolve as new decks are found. Interestingly, 2 decks that are covered in this video were not even in the top 10 decks list last time, showing how much it can change in a couple of weeks. I've recently set up an Instagram account, @LoreGuides, and I'll be doing a giveaway shortly. Please follow this account for see posts about new videos and for being a chance of winning this giveaway. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on bell notifications too. See you next time, guys.